1 or 2, you should hear the shutter chattering inside the system because there's no power going to it. Or if your shutter is not responding, someone in this options window could have altered the shutter mode to either fully open or fully closed. Fully open is not too bad for CCD, that is fine. You know, if you're trying to acquire data, like if you have some data that has just really high peaks and you want to acquire at like 1/10 of a second, we recommend you go into options and just hit open. Because the shutters in these systems are really not rated below, I'd say about 1/2 a second, maybe 0.3 of a second. So if you really want to go to like a 1/10 of a second, just tell the shutter to open. And it'll always keep the shutter open, because the shutter is just a mechanical thing the CCD will acquire for the time allotted. There, same thing, shutter mode now, we get it closed. Now next down here is the ICS Horiba correction. This is to remove the spectral ripples that are from the dielectric edge filters. If this is turned off, when you're actually collecting data, you will see some horrible low frequency noise in your data. It kind of looks like almost like a synodial sine wave. But we have an ICS correction, which is, they've already done a test on this in France, had measured this little wave, and have saved the file, so this wave is always subtracted out of your data. If for some reason this is turned off, if you have some data, you can actually manually correct it later, but we always recommend you just leave this on. And the denoise, I have no clue what that does. That is a new feature on this version of software that I haven't seen before. Alright, so that's the options under the acquisition on top. Next, under acquisition, we have autosave. If you're running a real long map or something, you set something up on a Friday, and you know that it's going to be completed at like 6 a.m. Sunday morning. If you truly have no life, I'm sure you're more than welcome to come back to the lab at 6 a.m. on a Sunday and look at your data and save it and manipulate it if you want. But if you actually have a personal life, you can set this up to autosave. So the moment that your data is done collecting, it'll automatically save your data to a predetermined folder that you can set.
Okay.
So that way, if your map's done running at, Sunday morning, 6 a.m., and there's a power outage at 8 a.m., you don't got to worry about it. You go, I already know my data got saved. It wasn't wiped out with the power outage.
Right. So it is going to save only at the end of the acquisition.
Yes. Right here, the little thing, turn it on, save acquired data. And then even if you want, you can even set it up here to repeat. So if you're just, for example, if you got your heating and cooling stage here and you're running it through the course of the night and you keep, raising your temperature by 5 degrees over, 5 minutes, say, you can do a 5-minute acquisition, then it'll auto-save, and then you can set up auto-repeat, and then it'll repeat it again. And then down here in the option, it'll save you the hour, the minute, and it'll tell you the time that each data point was collected. So then you can open individually and plot them through the course of time. Next, extended range. This here is to do a multi-window acquisition. In here now, for an 1800 groove grading, typically you will see 500 wave numbers in a single shot. But if your data spans more than 500 wave numbers, you could open this extended range window, and you can select multi-window. And now you can come in here from and to, and you can tell this that I want to go from 100 wave numbers, to 3,000 wave numbers. Okay. And what the multi-window will do now when you run it, well, the extended range works with the little piggy icon. When you click on the piggy icon for the spectral acquisition, the very first thing the piggy will do is the piggy looks in the extended range window. If the extended range window is activated, the piggy will carry out what's in the window. If the window is not activated, by not activated, it would be set to single window mode. Then the piggy looks to the bottom of the software, to the bottom 2 boxes in the acquisition window, and will carry that command out. So sometimes if you forget to check this extended range window and you start ready to do your data and you hit the little piggy to acquire it, all of a sudden you'll hear the drive start to move. And you'll go, oh, someone has the extended range on. Then you'll have to hit stop, put your drive back and turn the extended range off.
Okay.
So we have the multi-window area here, and we can also do multi-window and multi-locations. So for example, if you have some data where only thing you care about is your data from 100 to 500, and then you have more data at, 1,000 to 1,500, and then there's other data that you like that's at, 3,000 to 4,000 wave numbers, you can set up multiple regions on this, and you can have it just scan those particular areas.
Okay.
So, if you don't care about, the data that's between 1,000 and 2,000, you can have the machine just skip that whole area.
Okay.
Because why acquire it if it doesn't matter?
Right.
And also you can set a multiple time percentage. It says time here, time percent. See, all these boxes say 100%. So that means it'll carry out the one acquisition one time down here. That's in the acquisition window at the bottom. But if in one of these several ranges that you've displayed on here, if you know that, for example, at the final range, that your data peak is really, really low and it takes more time to accumulate the data there, you can actually come and rather than 100%, you could set it for 900%. So now rather than the last window acquiring for 1 second, it'll acquire for 9 seconds. Or the same thing, if you know in the first window, if you know has really high data that oversaturates your system, you could set it for 50%. Then the first window will only acquire for 0.5 of a second. The second range you determine would acquire at 100%, which would be 1 second, the time we got. And the third one would be 900%, or 9 seconds.
Okay.
So you can have different acquisition times in different areas of your spectrum. I'm just going to set all these back to 100 so people ain't confused. So the multi-window. Then other than multi-window is kind of a stitch and paste. The grading will move, it'll stop, then it takes an image. Then the grading moves to the next area, stops, takes an image. And then just overlays the images to make it longer.
Okay.
Where we have another option that's auto scanning. Auto scanning is the continuous motion of the grading. So in the auto scanning mode, the CCD will acquire all the time and the grading will slowly move as it's acquiring, which will get you much better data, better resolution, and bring up some of those finer Raman peaks that might be escaping you.
Okay.
Because what it'll do is, as it acquires where it'll hit all 1,000 pixels, and then it'll move 1 pixel over. So rather than hitting from 1 pixel to 1,000, now it'll hit from pixel 2 to 1,000. Then it'll move some more, and it'll hit pixel number 3 to 1,000. But all those times, it's always hitting, pixel 500. So by the time you get out there, pixel 500 has seen data, 500 times. So the data gets very, very good.
Yeah.
Then, if you need even better data, you have subpixel numbers. Now what these will do is they actually divide the pixels up into even kind of like microscopic pixels. So if you set this to example like a subpixel of 4, when you do your auto scan, it'll hit all the pixels, then it'll move like the quarter the width of a pixel. And you'll still hit the first pixel, but now you'll hit a quarter of the first
Is
pixel.
it the CCD pixel?
Yes.
Oh.
And then it'll move in such a fine, so you'll hit the first pixel 4 times. Then it'll move over, then you would hit the second pixel 4 times. Then the third pixel 4 times, rather than just 1 time. Get you, even a little better signal to noise ratio, but everything you do, you'll see when you play with it, it exponentially makes your data longer.
Okay.
So if you were doing a map, for example, like I say, it makes things longer. If you do just a regular map, like these guys were doing earlier, you just do a map of grid, like 50 points by 50 points, 5 seconds a point. Map can take, 10 hours. If you need a longer scan, you said if you do a multi-window, now your map takes 15 hours. Or if you set to auto scanning and a sub-pixel rating of 4, your map now takes 24 hours. Then if you set in the autofocus with that too, your map now takes 27 hours. And it keeps building and building and